Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale diecast Iron Man figure unboxing and review. Today, we're taking a look at the D100 Special Edition colorway of the Iron Man Mark 7. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com, link for that is in the description below. They have pay in 4 and a loyalty program. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys review goes live on the channel. The whole reason why this silver and red color combo Iron Man actually exists is to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of Disney. Iron Man is an odd choice though, considering Disney didn't invent this character, Marvel did. And okay, now Disney owns Marvel, but they haven't forever. They were two independent companies back in the day. I would have gone with one of the Disney princesses perhaps, maybe a new version of Belle or one of the other live-action characters that Disney actually invented. Nevertheless, we got Iron Man, it's Hot Toys bread and butter. Front and center, the Mark 7 with this satin finish and a metallic effect on certain parts and pieces. Mark 7 down below, as well as a Hot Toys exclusive sticker. On the side of the box, Iron Man Mark 7 in a metallic foil print and Disney 100 once again. But these metallic and rough textured little triangles that make up these organic waves, the geometry here, these I really like, and they spill over to the back and front of the box as well. If you've unboxed a diecast Iron Man figure recently, then the unboxing experience here is pretty much identical. You have this foam block in the middle holding the figure, but for some reason the backdrop is just slid in and just flaps around over the edge. I personally don't love that. Around the back, warnings and legal information, and more of that awesome geometry. I am hoping this Avengers A backdrop thing can go flat if it's supposed to. Having this massive crease in it so they can store it in the side of the box, just not ideal. This side has the Disney 100 logo on this foam block, and it's sculpted into the surface. Can you sculpt foam? Is that what they've done? I think so, because they've done it here too. Mark 7 D100 version. This is sculpted into the surface. I am really curious to see how this guy compares to the normal Mark 7. And also, find out which one I prefer and which one you'll prefer. You will have to let me know throughout the course of the video what you like about this one compared to the original. First, in-hand impressions, oh boy. I forget how heavy the Mark 7 is. This is one hefty die-cast figure. What we are going to do now, though, is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Well, almost everything. We do still have to look at the diorama backdrop. We'll just save it for the pros and cons segment. Then we'll pop it behind the figure and see what that looks like. Starting off with the display base first. It's very techy. We've got wires and some screws and this grill section up on top. We actually got this display base recently with the Diecast Mark 1. I'm not complaining though, I like the display base with that figure and I like it here too. There's some pops of bright silver, there's some gunmetal sections for the grill pieces, and also some really dark charcoal grey. My favourite part about the base though, of course, is the massive Marvel logo front and centre. It's bright, it's colourful, it's eye-catching, it's metallic, and they've added all these little Avengers symbols into the lettering. Then up top, a flight pole, and the ultimate style of crotch grabber. It's not just the crotch grabber, it's also a spring-loaded waist clamp, so when you pop the very heavy Mark 7 on here, he's going to be super secure. Really wish we'd get that style of waist clamp more often, even for really heavy figures like the diecast War Machine and Iron Patriot from Avengers Endgame. They only came with the regular waist clamp, and that's just not secure enough, especially for some hefty diecast boys like them. Now he comes with a plethora of switch-out armor bits and pieces, plates, panels, missile attachments. We're not going to look at them all now. I do want to focus on this one because I like the way it looks. You've got the missiles sticking out, you can see the panels have split open, and there's some mechanical details sculpted in underneath the various panels. We will, of course, switch out all of these parts and pieces onto the Mark 7 when we bring him out here. Look, I didn't want to be here all day just as much as you don't want to. The accessories segment, it's the most boring part of any review. Looking at the metrics, most people just skip over it. So, in summary, you get pretty much everything you got with the standard Mark 7 except for the pod mode pieces, the Tony Stark head sculpt, and the battle damage attachments. You also get these two laser beams. They're translucent plastic. They're a little bit more optically clear towards the ends where they're thickest. Then they thin out quite significantly towards the end. You do have to be quite careful, they feel pretty fragile. They seem like they're made of rubbery plastic because of how they're flexing. They're not, they're just super thin, that's why they can move like that. And lastly, for hands, you get 2 closed fists already installed on him, 2 repulsor blasting hands with the fingers splayed out and the wrist peg connector at an angle, plus the wrist armor itself is flexed up, so you can tilt the hands up to get an accurate repulsor blasting pose. You also get 2 more closed fists with the laser beam attachment connectors so you can plug those into the hands. And lastly, my favorite of the bunch, the articulated finger hands. I like these because you can get really creative with your posing. Also, you still retain the translucent repulsor section, so if you have the lights turned on, they will shine through. What we are going to do now, though, is get the Mark 7 himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. You're either going to feel one of 2 ways about this figure. The first is, what the hell is this? The Mark 7 was never this color palette in the film. And the second is, okay, I'm open to it. I fall into the second category because the Mark 7 is one of my favorite MCU suits of all time. And I love the silver and red color combo. I loved it with Centurion, I loved it with Mark 5, and here, surprisingly, it really does work. This guy is big. He's bulky. The proportions are spot on. It looks like a dude in a suit. And then the colorway going with this gorgeous metallic red and this bright shiny silver with the gunmetal accents and the little black panel lines here and there. It all comes together where previously I honestly had my doubts. I didn't think I was going to like this guy anywhere near as much as it turns out I actually do. Up close and personal, kicking things off with Iron Man's helmet. The common sentiment these days is, seen one Hot Toys Iron Man, seen them all. No, not really. I'm noticing things this time round on the Mark 7 that I completely missed the first time round. I, and a lot of collectors, often forget how good these die-cast Iron Man figures really are. The helmet is the traditional Hot Toys Iron Man Mark 7 helmet mold. We've seen it before. It's fantastic. It fits in proportion to the body. The lines are all where they're supposed to be. And this time going with the Mark 5 color scheme being this almost chrome silver and the reflective red. Oh, it's beautiful. And they've panel lined all of the little intricate details, even these screws on the front of the faceplate. There's also some hidden detail, even on the back of the faceplate, something you'd never see because there is no Tony Stark head sculpt on the inside. They've sculpted all the detail, then they've painted it in gunmetal. Overall, so far, even though we're early on in this segment, I'm still really happy with the finish, and the Mark 7 mold, we already knew it was good. There's something so charming about these early Iron Man suits. Marks 1 through 7, they're my favorite. No nanotech, no bullshit, just pistons, gears, techie bits and pieces, all coming together to make up this suit of armor. Around the back, we've got some opening flaps, and there's some sculpted grille detail underneath. It's also fully painted. And these bottom flaps, they are a little bit more challenging to open because you do have to pull them out first, and then you can pull them up. If you're a little bit too rough with them, they do tend to pop out. That's fine, just pop them right back in. Underneath these, you also have some sculpted detail. The best part for me is when you close them up, they look completely seamless. The gap isn't huge. It's nice and tight. The tolerances here, they're on point. The Mark 7 is where it's at for me. This suit is the GOAT. The Mark 85 is beautiful. The 50 also awesome. 45, 43, 42, yeah, they're on my top 10. This suit, you just can't beat it. It is so chunky. They've also done away mostly with the gaps at the shoulders. You can see a little bit of light poking through. The shoulder pads are on ball joints and hinges, so you can sort of move them around pose depending. So you can cover up those gaps if you choose to. The chest plate can be removed for no other reason, just to show you some beautiful detail. There is also some sculpt work inside the arc reactor, so when you turn the light on, for some reason it's really blowing out on camera, but in person you can see all of that sculpted detail. All of this techie stuff is fully painted, which is kind of crazy, seeing as though you're never really going to be able to see it. You can also remove these side panels with some grille detail tucked in there, and they have improved the connection of these plates compared to the first version. That one, these fell off all the time, so too did these. With this one, they are nice and secure. Yes, the joints are more visible, especially this elbow joint. That's die-cast, and I think they get away with it because the suit is so mechanical, that just looks like more mechanical detail to me. There's also some sculpted pistons up underneath the arm and inside the butterfly joint that moves around. And don't forget, you can swap out these parts and pieces, which we will do a little bit later. It's just now dawned on me that we haven't even spoken about the finish yet. The red has so much depth to it. There's this flake, and it's almost like they put this gloss coat over the top of the red, so like I said, there's a lot of depth. Then for the silver, it's shiny, there's a flake to it as well. There are a couple of gunmetal sections just spliced in, and all of the line work. I've said line work way too many times, it's just the best way to describe what's going on. He's not skipped leg day, his thighs are quite chonky. Now there is a little bit of a gap up here underneath the hip area. I'm okay with that. He's an action figure, he has to move somehow after all, as long as it's not a massive detractor to the aesthetic. I don't think it is. In the collection, I don't think you're going to focus on that little gap right there. Now you do have some swappable panels for the front of his thighs. You can either go for this one with the rockets exposed. I know people really like this one, me included, because more depth, more detail, always a good thing with the mini rockets on the surface. Or if you're going for the kind of battle damage look, as though he's spent the rockets and these canisters have jettisoned off, you can go for this much smoother panel. Now there is still some sculpt work on the surface, so not completely smooth, but a lot less prominent as compared to this one. This protrudes out way further than this panel does. Which one am I going to use in my display? Right now, probably leaning towards this one. Very quickly, before I forget, you can extend out the little flare canister, and that too is fully detailed with the little flares sculpted in and painted. Underneath these panels, sculpt work, all the little intricate circuitry parts and pieces. We also have some opening thrusters on the side of his legs. And remember when they used to do this around the back of these Iron Man figures' legs, how you had the little pistons like you saw in Iron Man 1 when he was soldering the leg boot thing and the little pistons were moving? I love seeing that. These things, they just move out, then you can see all of that sculpt work underneath. Once again, fully painted. Overall, even though we have seen this suit before, I'm still really impressed with how this new colorway turned out. Okay, so now that we've looked at everything in detail, now we can start switching out some of the armor pieces. First off, we want to take off these trap attachments with the flaps on them. Then we want to bring in the missile pod versions. It's very similar with the same pattern around the front and they peg in the exact same way, nice and securely. But now we've got the missile pods up on top and this looks so cool. I love that they've painted the little silver hinges for the bomb bay doors and every single missile tip. Around the back we've got some more missiles nestled in there where this panel is open with this sculpt work around the edge. And you still retain the moving flap functionality. If you're wondering what he looks like without either of these things on though, hey, I don't hate this. It does mean that you are losing some of the bulk at the traps. He's still bulky enough. I think that doesn't make a massive difference for me. I do like how clean it is now. It's nice and smooth over the top, and you've got less silver around this area. It's mostly red for his torso. I am starting to get Silver Centurion vibes. So to fix that, let's add some more silver back in. You can remove these panels, like we discussed earlier, and now having the vent work on full display and thinning him out a little bit on the side of the torso, it's just a completely different display option. If you want this guy to look worlds apart from your normal Mark 7, switch out some of these panels, take off these ones, and then, yeah, I think he does. What have I done now? Well, I put these panels back on for one. I also switched out both thigh plates for the missile pod versions. And we got the missiles back on the traps. So this boy is ready to kick some ass. He is ready to take down one of those massive Chitauri creatures. Now, there are some more missiles that we do have to add on, so we may as well get that done as well. There are actually two ways of doing this. The first of which is to simply remove the panel on the back of his forearm, and that's painted in gunmetal under there where normally it would just be red. Then remove the missile from the switch out forearms and just peg it in place where the panel used to be. There is some great sculpted detail that would normally be hidden underneath the panel, and of course the missile around the front. The second option is to swap out the forearm entirely. This is the normal one. This is the panel that you can remove. You can see the peg on the back, this top one, you take it off. Then you can pop this one on. It literally just sandwiches the body in between it. It clips on top and bottom. You've got some sculpt work underneath these panels that would have sprung open to reveal his laser attachment. There's also some more detail back there. And speaking of the laser attachment, you can now bring in the laser beam, and it is a square peg, so do make sure you are orienting it correctly when you go and plug it in. This beam is massive. I don't know how many people have room for it. If you do, I envy you, because I would love to be able to display my Mark 7 with the laser beams on. So this is his most aggressive look, with all the missiles out on his forearms, on his thighs, up here at the top as well. What does he look like without all of that stuff on, and with the panels removed and with the cleaner thigh plates on? I'm pretty curious to see that myself. Ooh, very sleek. I see you, Mark 7. You've slimmed down a lot. He's lost all that bulk on the front of his thighs. Now it's nice and clean. Same thing up here on the traps, and ditching those panels on the side of his chest plate. I know we've already looked at it a couple of times. Just once more, I love the way this looks. So in my collection, hell yes, I'm going to display my Mark 7 D100 like this. For a quick side-by-side comparison, on the left, D100 Mark 7, and on the right, normal Mark 7. I don't have the lights on for the standard version just because 99% of the time that's how they're going to look in the display. The button cell batteries, they die super quickly, and unless you have some kind of fusion reactor wired in permanently, you're probably going to have the lights off, unfortunately. They're the same height, same build, same proportions, they're the exact same figure, it's just the color palette that's different. When you start to switch out some of the panels, that's when you can make the D100 version look a little bit more different to the standard version. Which one do I prefer? I love the new one, I do, and thankfully I have room to display both of them. But I still have to go with the standard one. Avengers 1 is such an iconic film, and that one's just way more movie accurate. Ooh, another member of the Silver and Red gang. The Silver Centurion, such an underrated figure. He is really, really good. He's a little bit shorter than the D100 version, the reds are close but don't quite match, and the silver is nowhere near as shiny as the Mark 7. Could you still display these together? Hell yes, and I totally am going to. Oh hello, another member of the Silver and Red gang, they're all coming out today. The Mark 5 is a little bit shorter than the Mark 7, as it should be. It's nowhere near as bulky, it's just an emergency suit in a suitcase after all. And it's a lot skinnier than the Mark 7. The color palette, they do match a lot more than Silver Centurion did with the D100 figure. It's just that the Mark V has all of this battle damage and scratching and pitting and wear and tear and surface detail, whereas the D100 Mark VII is very, very clean. Going over articulation, if this is your first die-cast Iron Man, you might want to take your time. The engineering can be a little bit daunting. It's very involved. There are a lot of moving parts and pieces, and the last thing you'd want to do is rush anything and damage this gorgeous finish. Starting off with Iron Man's helmet, the neck is on a ball joint at the base, and there's another ball joint underneath the helmet that's also on a hinge. Looking forward to there, looking up to there, more than enough range for a flight pose. You also get swivel and pivot side to side. Before you move the arms, move the shoulder pads out. Paint rub? Not today. The arms will go up to there, they will go forward and back, they're pegged in on ball joints. You also get a butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. There is a swivel at the bicep, it's very stiff on mine for some reason. Double bend at the elbow going past 90, then the hands, they're on ball joints. The torso can extend up on two different joints, crunching forward to there, going back to there. You do get swivel and pivot side to side. The hip skirts are articulated, so we're going to move those out the way. The one on the side kind of hinges up and then out. You can drop the legs down, going forward to there, going out to there. You also get a swivel at the ball joint the legs are pegged into and the upper thigh. Double ratcheted bend at the knee, going just past 90 before this piece starts to open for some reason. Then for the ankles, these flared out pieces on the side, they do make our job a little bit more difficult. The feet will go forward and back. You also get swivel and some ankle tilt. Not a ton, just because of those flared pieces. And lastly, toe articulation. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. This is not this figure's fault, because it's based off the first Mark 7. I can understand why they didn't make any changes to the mold. Button cell batteries again. The button cell batteries die very quickly, the lights aren't super bright for a long period of time because they die so quickly. And when you turn the LEDs off, this guy looks completely dead. The second annoying thing is this piece of crap right here. In theory, it's cool. It's this Avengers A made up of logos and weapons and silhouettes of MCU characters in metallic silver foil. In practice, going with cheap, translucent clamshell plastic with this crease down the middle of the A no less, I just think it cheapens the whole vibe of the figure. Popping this 2-cent piece of plastic behind a multi-$100 die-cast Iron Man figure meant to celebrate 100 years of Disney? Yeah, I don't think so. The third annoying thing is some of these panels don't quite peg on as securely as I would like. Going with the rubber gaskets around the rim of these pegs, they wear out pretty quickly, and when you start to change these panels often, then you'll find that for a while at least, until those rubber pieces start to contract back in, these panels might just be falling off on you. The first cool thing is this display base. This new format of base being large but not overly so like those stupid diamond bases and flat on pretty much every corner so you can butt any edge up against the cabinet. This just works for me. It gives you a nice platform to pose him on, yet it's not too cumbersome. It's also pretty tall to give him an added height boost, helping him stand out in the display. Then around the front, this gorgeous Marvel logo, I cannot get enough. Going with all the characters' symbols in the lettering, and it's metallic, and it just pops. I'm hoping they use this display base going forward, potentially with more of their comic book style figures. The second cool thing is the finish. Hot Toys are the masters of making plastic look like metal. Yes, this guy is a die-cast figure, but it's not all die-cast. Some of this has to be plastic, and it is. But you can't tell which panels are plastic and which panels are die-cast because Hot Toys are so good at doing a metallic finish. The red, beautiful. The silver, shiny, reflective, and adding the gunmetal in here and there, this is Hot Toys' own color scheme. We've never seen this on the Mark 7 before. So they literally had to reinvent the way the Mark 7 looks, pick where every single color is supposed to go. I think they nailed it. The third cool thing is we get almost all of the same switch out panels as the normal Mark 7. So if you prefer the silver and red color scheme, you're not really missing out on anything, just the pod mode, which I don't think is the end of the world. With the Mark 7 in front of it, does the backdrop still look bad? Yeah, I think it does. Look, they tried something, it didn't work out, and that's fine. For me, it's going right back in the box. I don't like this backdrop at all. If you do, well, this is what it looks like behind the Mark 7. The issues that I have with it is it's too short, so you can't really see it above his head super well. It also is that cheap, nasty, translucent plastic. And with the crease baked in permanently, which you need to keep, otherwise it can't stand on its own, the Avengers A is a little bit distorted, so I don't really know what they were going for here. Wrapping up on the D100 Mark 7. Still weird that this was released. This is the character that they went with for the Disney 100-year anniversary. Not Beauty and the Beast, not Snow White, not any of the other Disney princesses. We went with Iron Man, a character that Disney didn't even invent. That was Marvel, and Disney just came along and bought Marvel. Still, I get it. Iron Man means a lot to Hot Toys, and by proxy, then I guess they're saying that it means a lot to Disney, although he does, seeing as though he kickstarted the MCU and made them a buttload of money. So I get it. And when you're making a figure as good as this guy is, and as good as he looks, I think they get a bit of a pass. At least they do from me. This figure is bloody beautiful. Is he perfect? He's close. It's just that some of the panels do tend to wiggle around on you and pop off when you're trying to pose him. Everything else is great. The finish, 10 out of 10 for me personally. The silver and red color combo actually really does work for the Mark 7. The proportions are on point. He's big and bulky and chonky. And he comes with almost everything that you got with the standard Mark 7. You just can't do pod mode. And I'm okay with that because you wouldn't want to do pod mode with this guy. That would just ruin this awesome display piece, in my opinion. The only downside here is the stupid backdrop. It's big, it takes up a bunch of space, there's a crease down the middle, it's cheap, translucent plastic, and I think it ruins the entire vibe of this figure. So for me, I'm going without it in the display. This guy, he has a home in my Iron Man collection, no doubt. I am in love with the way this thing looks, and I really didn't think I was going to. I was one of the biggest skeptics going in. I thought, oh, bloody hell, another Hot Toys Iron Man. Really? They've just done their concept colorway? Oh, it worked, and it worked a treat. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have Pay in 4 and a loyalty program. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.